about two German admirals, their undecipherable boss, and how conflicts and disagreements between them win the Battle of the Atlantic. Admiral Erich Raeder had commanded the German Navy since 1928, when he was promoted to admiral and given the job during the days of the Weimar Republic. When Hitler came to power, he kept Raeder and for a while paid little attention to the Navy. Raeder dreamed of creating a great German fleet of large battleships. Admiral Karl Donitz, a submarine veteran from World War I, dreamed about a very different sort of German Navy. It would be composed almost entirely of submarines that will cripple enemy shipping with new U-boat tactics he had devised while a prisoner of war. Adolf Hitler dreamed mostly of continental ground war, tanks, blitzkrieg, mostly ground stuff, and also of his Air Force commanded by Hermann Göring. Left his two admirals pushing for their opposite views and their conflicting needs, frustrated with Hitler's perceived shortcomings before and during the war. Neither Admiral Raeder nor Admiral Donitz thought Hitler ever really understood the value of the Navy, its strategy, its tactics, its needs. But in the end, Raeder and Donitz would have much in common. Each was a German Navy veteran from the First World War. During the war to come, each would command Hitler's Navy as the Grand Admiral. Each would beg Hitler for more ships or U-boats and be frustrated by his undecipherable intentions. Each despised Hermann Göring, who would deny them control of any German aircraft. Each would be convicted of war crimes at Nuremberg. Each would serve time in prison, and after release, write a telltale book. For a while, Hitler's chief naval concern was simply to keep peace with the British Navy. Not for years could Germany even hope to compete on the seas. But building up a German Navy and confronting the great British fleet one day was exactly what Admiral Raeder had in mind. The 1918 Treaty of Versailles denied Germany any submarines. After the treaty, there were some German U-boat design developments artfully labeled research. But before 1935, that in the German Navy there was no U-boat construction, so no U-boat practice or training or submarine crews. The British were doing some experiments. In 1922, Britain revealed that it had developed the world's first underwater sound system to detect where submarines were. It was called ASDIC, and we've had a program on ASDIC. supposed the new invention by the British would pretty much obsolete submarines in any future war. So it was no puzzle why submarines had been given little thought by the commander of the German Navy, or why Admiral Raeder tethered his hopes to battleships and great surface vessels. For the German Navy, 1935 was the most significant year before the start of the war. Because in March, Hitler renounced the Treaty of Versailles and proclaimed Germany's resumption of her rights as a sovereign power. Hitler guessed correctly. In the aftermath of Hitler's proclamation, the British focused on appeasement, agreed for Germany to scrap naval arms limitations that had been imposed under the Treaty of Versailles. A new formula between the two powers gave Britain a 3-to-1 superiority of capital ships and let Germany start building a submarine fleet. Big mistake. Grand Admiral Raeder was jubilant. He could start building his dream fleet. And as a sort of footnote, he created a new U-boat arm. Raeder gave the job of forming it to the most senior submarine man from the First World War, Admiral Karl Donitz, 15 years younger than himself. In the First War, all submarines operated alone. But Donitz, while a prisoner of war, had developed a radical new idea. Believing that no submarine operating alone could inflict significant losses on a large group of ships traveling as a convoy, Donitz thought a coordinated group of U-boats attacking a convoy together could make a devastating kill. Donitz calls his invention Wolf Pack. After spotting a target, coordination of U-boats gathering at sea to make a kill is necessary for a wolf pack to work. Improvements in radio communications developed after the First War make that coordination at sea possible. And now, as chief of the new U-boat arm, Donitz has a free hand to organize his service as he thinks best. What he thinks best for the Navy is a fleet composed almost entirely of submarines. Donitz foresees war with Britain as a possibility and even as a likelihood. So in 1937, to the discomfort of his boss Raeder, Admiral Donitz begins pressing for the conversion of the German fleet almost entirely to U-boats, calling them an ideal weapon of offense. He argues that results out of all proportion to the effort required are obtainable.